Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. Video of the day from Manosphere Daily. Companies are not hiring female employees. Women are just frustrated now. Please like them below. I really appreciate that. Let's get that chow time.
I was joking with you earlier that it's like trendy to get it together when it comes to, making a safe environment for women. And right now, it seems as though there's beginning to be a movement. Why?
Well, I think there's started to be a dialogue about it, right? And like anything, it takes a long time for that dialogue to become something that becomes kind of normal. On About.me, when we spun out of AOL, we had 13 people that were on our team, 13 men, right? I'm not proud. That's not okay,
Why isn't that okay? Women didn't want to do anything about AOL. They didn't want to be in the industry at the time. It made sense.
Fast forward today, we have 11 women and, we have 14 men, right? So we have a team of 25. So we didn't make it like a mantra internally because I think that diminishes somewhat. Then, we're only hiring whatever. But I, as a CEO and as a leader and as a founder, it's something that I uniquely could impact. And I had an eye towards it in a very quiet way. We have navigated, right? And we made sure that we had great candidates, both for men and women. And then when we've had opportunity to grab like incredibly professional, seasoned, accomplished, talented women, like we've done it, like we've created an environment where they're going to feel comfortable, right? We don't have Nerf guns in our office, our silly startup culture,
So we have to change all of our work culture and our office and everything just to accommodate women? Why can't they just come into our work culture and become like us? Because it's our work culture, is it not?
Like we're not sending out all these, signals of this is a dude frat party.
Sometimes founders don't even realize it may be a place with all Nerf guns and it just feels like a dude frat party. Do you have women advisors? Do you you guys have conversations?
Yeah, we have
with other
conversations.
founders?
You read, you pay attention to it. It's something that at my station of life, my age, it's inexcusable to not have your ears open and to dive in and be knowledgeable, what's happening. So we ask, one of my partners just did a great thing where he asked some of the female founders of true portfolio companies, what's that like pitching us? What are the things that we, haven't been sensitized to because we're all guys, right? So let's okay, so let's open up and let's think about it. Listen, we have a long list and we are so far from where we need to be.
But of course it is. Women are going to give a list of whatever the fuck they want. You can't just give in to all demands that women want everything in the workplace. Then the workplace is made for them only, not for us anymore. So this is why men just don't want to work with women.
But I'm really proud of the ability for our team to open up and listen to it and then figure out what we want to go do about it.
I agree that we should all be open to listen to all genders. It doesn't matter what it is. And take in advice and absorb in, experiences and stuff. But it doesn't make sense to be hiring that way.
In an unexpected contort, ladies may be confronting the accidental aftermath from the #MeToo development, with just themselves to fault. An impending report in the diary Hierarchical Elements uncovers how men's way of behaving toward their female partners has definitely moved since the development built up momentum. A faltering 27% of men currently keep away from one-on-one gatherings with female colleagues.
We have all witnessed the layoffs of thousands of employees over the past couple of years at companies like Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, and Twitter. The consequences of COVID on organizations became evident when they recognized they had hired excessively during the pandemic.
Yep.
You might not be aware of this, but the majority of businesses have stopped recruiting women. It might be surprising to learn that more firms are refusing to hire women to fill their positions, and no corporation will admit this to you. Why? Because women bring a...
Because they'll get fucking flack. If a corporation straight up said they're not hiring women anymore, oh my God, the government would be down their necks.
A lot of drama to the table, and endless cases of ruining employee culture by falsely accusing male colleagues who no longer want to work with women.
Earlier this year, I had the displeasure of dealing with a female coworker harassing a male coworker. A male subordinate comes to me to report the female subordinate. She decided that she wanted his opinion on fellatio techniques. She asked him because he's openly gay. I went with him to HR to report. HR calls everyone involved to get their side. At this point, the female employee realizes the male employee snitched and begins bad-mouthing him. HR hands down punishment based on zero tolerance policy. 3 days unpaid suspension for the male victim.
What? The man was harassed and he just reported it. How'd he get 3 days? Come on.
But only 1 day unpaid suspension to the female employee because she's pregnant and we can't cause too many problems.
Fuck you, HR. Fuck you and your fucking problems. You're the one that's causing all of this.
The male employee came back from suspension with legal representation. The female employee came back and all the male employees avoided her and any situation where they would need to be alone with a female employee.
She taught them.
One of my coworkers came at me today because apparently she just couldn't take it anymore. She was like, Brandon, I have to say something. I noticed you don't use any African American women in your videos. What are you trying to pull? Like, we all know that there are black single moms out there. I said, yes, there are plenty of black single moms out there, Vanessa. But front camera, crying, adding music, and you posting it? I don't think so.
Truth be told, close to 33% of men are presently reluctant to be distant from everyone else with a lady at work. In addition, 21% of men confess that they would be reluctant to employ women in positions that require close interaction, such as business travel. Furthermore, 19% of men admit that they would hesitate to hire an attractive woman. The exploration, directed in mid-2019 across different enterprises, lays out a disturbing picture when contrasted with comparative inquiries posed in mid-2018.
So a paper came out recently that looked at the impact of the MeToo movement on academia, and it actually shows that post-MeToo, women's productivity fell largely due to fewer collaborations with male researchers. The paper shows that this drop is most pronounced at universities where the perceived risk of sexual harassment accusations is highest.
So the liberal colleges?
Findings comparing research before and after the movement are right here. And as you can see, after the Me Too movement, collaborations with male researchers inside the same institution fell to close to zero. The author points out that men feel like if they accidentally say the wrong thing, they could be canceled or fired. She also notes that institutions that have clear policies on sexual harassment help reduce this perceived risk. And this isn't just in academia. The paper also cites a 2018 study which showed that 60% of male managers are uncomfortable participating in common activities with women due to the same concerns. And a curious finding of the study was that men make up for the loss in this collaboration by just collaborating more with other men, whereas women don't make up for it at all. The author concludes her
Yeah, because they hate working with each other. They're freaking, it's like a cat fight every single time.
findings by saying that Me Too was important for raising awareness, but it's also increasingly important for institutions to have really clear sexual harassment guidelines.
During the height of #MeToo, 15% of men resisted hiring women for positions that required close interpersonal interactions. That number had increased to 21% by 2019.
Absolutely no due process.
I will say again, I'll go back. Whatever the movement is, whatever the cause is, if you think it is bigger than due process, giving people an opportunity to be heard and making sure that people, I know there are some people that say, well, you know what, if some people get destroyed, if their lives get destroyed, that's a small
Well, I know
prize.
men who say they won't hire women now, so that's great.
That's stupid. Yeah.
Well, what would you do? If someone could just say, Sam touched me inappropriately.
You need to have an atmosphere that's open to women coming forward.
So, Sam, what happens 20 years from now? What happens 20 years from now, Sam? Where somebody says, I worked with Sam Stein at the Huffington Post, and we were having drinks one night, and he put his hand on my leg. What happens in this environment 20 years from now, you're fired.
Well, I'll say I work at the Daily Beast.
I know, but back when, back when you first started at the Huffington Post, that's the environment we're in.
I want to go back to my original point, which is I don't think there is, I agree that there is a really difficult problem here of due process, and it needs to be, whoever is accused, it needs to at least have their point heard and their and the ability.
That's all? Just have their point heard? Not that they need to be proven guilty?
To face their accusers, which is due process, the essential element of due process. I worry, and I just want to make sure, like, that you allow an environment where the actual victims here are still able to come forward and say, you know what, this happened. Yeah. And this is difficult. I mean, with the problem with Al, in the end, was that he had a series of incidents where he was grabbing people's butts. That doesn't say he shouldn't get due process.
Is there a picture of that?
He admitted that it likely happened. So I just want to be clear. The problem that Al faced was Al's own making. Yeah. Now, the secondary problem was what happens when those things come out into the fore. In that case, Al did deserve to have, I don't know why I keep calling him Al, Senator Franken did deserve to have due process. But let's not act like the system screwed him. He screwed himself. That's all I'm saying.
Mika, the change.
These statistics reveal a troubling trend. The very movement that aimed to make workplaces safer and more equitable for
I get if he was grabbing someone and still doing it, but he did it like 10, 20 years ago and he doesn't do it anymore. It's kind of fucked up to bring it back up and saying, oh, he's a creep and he's been doing this whole time. But to each of their own, I guess.
Women might have unintentionally caused men to be more wary and hesitant, which could have hindered women's professional opportunities. The #MeToo development, where each working environment connection among people feels like a HR bad dream simply holding on to detonate.
Now, here's a quick one about a gal who she, as well as her female coworkers, are having...
Shoutouts to the Manosphere Daily. Just getting freaking clips from all of them, the major creators that really pertain to this. I like it a lot. Good shoutouts to you, brother. Keep it up.
A meltdown because a guy at work isn't paying attention to them. And as I say, women, they need attention and validation the same way plants need sunlight and water. Mm-hmm. And how if a guy rejects them, either rejects their advances, doesn't pay attention to them, they lose their freaking minds. Title: A colleague at work, a 27-year-old male of 1 year, refuses to socialize with me, a 24-year-old female, or any of the women in our office. Oh, the travesty. There are plenty of other horrible things going on in the world, but nothing is as horrible as a guy, God forbid, not paying attention to you and your friends. She says here, "Hi all. I'm posting this on alternative site because I know a few of my friends are following me on here, and I don't want this spilling out until I have some clear thoughts on what I want to do." Oh, you're trying to say you don't want any drama because something tells me you like drama. So early last year, our firm hired Dan, a 27-year-old male. In the first few weeks, he was really quiet and didn't talk much, and that's just how we thought he was. Every conversation with him was short and to the point and never deviated from work, aside from pleasantries, have a nice weekend, etc. About 2 months ago, he started becoming a bit more friendly with the guys in our office, and they would hang out every so often after work and have normal conversations.
It's like, how do these women know this? These women are just stalking the shit out of these men and like knowing where all these men are doing and going. They're just coworkers. When I went out, I didn't know my coworkers like for shit. I barely knew them. And then I never knew that they'd gone out with other people and shit. Like, what the fuck?
Isn't it interesting that she and her friends are really paying close attention to what this guy's doing? However, whenever any of the girls in the office try to do so, he would quickly change the conversation back to just work or not reply.
As it should be.
Even now, after a year of Dan working with us, he straight up refuses to socialize with the girls in the office, and he's making them feel uncomfortable. Oh, now he's the bad guy. He's making us feel uncomfortable. Maybe he's sticking to business. Maybe he's worked at a place where the girls act like it's high school and wants nothing to do with that. Or maybe he's become very RP'd, understands about MGTOW, things like that, knows the Mike Pence rule, and he's doing that for a good reason. But he's making you uncomfortable. He avoids any discussion of himself outside of work-related events and future plans and doesn't ask any of the girls either. Aware as he is, what can I only assume, pretty good friends with the guys in the office. Even on work meals out to celebrate events, he's only doing the bare minimum when it comes to conversation with the girls, where again with the guys, he talks to them like there is no problem whatsoever. I don't know if I'm overreacting.
You are.
You sure about that? But one of the girls is considering going to HR about this because she is saying it's creating a hostile work environment. Dan treats us like he treats clients we work with, cordial and strictly about business, and it's wearing thin now. Any advice is appreciated.
He treats them cordial and about business, and it's a hostile work environment.
Okay, she asked for advice, so I'll give some advice. You and your friends need to grow the F up. You're 24 years old, so I'm assuming all the female coworkers are probably in the 20s. We all know what generation they're in between the Z-tards and the millennials, and she's certainly behaving like a bunch of Z-tards and millennials. Your work is a place of business to earn a paycheck to pay for your living expenses or to build a career, not high school. But she's acting like it's high school. If this guy doesn't want to talk to you, that's his business. He probably has experience where BS goes on, gossiping and drama and turmoil, which you're creating drama.
Of course.
And wants nothing to do with it. And given how you're acting here and saying that it's a unpleasant work environment or some BS like that and thinking about going to HR, gee, you wonder why he doesn't want to talk to you. Problem is this, you can't handle the fact that a guy doesn't want to pay attention to you, that a guy isn't flirting with you, asking you out and all that, and it's driving you freaking crazy.
On account of the anxiety toward misleading provocation allegations, a few men presently deal with female partners like ticking delayed bombs, staying away from them no matter what. When you can just stick to your own gender bubble, who needs mentorship or professional development? Not to mention the confusion. With the lines among fitting and unseemly conduct now blurrier than at any other time, everybody's treading lightly, hesitant to say or do whatever might be confused. Who knew work environment collaborations could be this much tomfoolery? It's extreme taking care of business in this day and age. Who would have thought that a simple hello could end a career?
Or not saying anything could end a career.
With all this avoiding eye contact for fear of receiving an inappropriate compliment and ending up in the unemployment line, it is amazing that any work is completed. Yes, it makes perfect sense to stay away from women altogether. Who needs proficient connections when you can simply adhere to your brothers? After all, if one bad move could end everything, why take the risk?
Yep.
We had a couple of weeks ago, we had this conversation. We had members of Congress on and said, why not go through the ethics process with Al Franken? And the answer was the process is flawed and it favors members of Congress. And that very well may be true, but it's the process you've got. Yeah. So you don't throw out due process.
I think
altogether.
the process
Make
itself
the process
is what we need to be talking about before we talk about the men, because the process needs to be it's going to be complicated, but I think women feel that they are maligned and mistreated through the process, and therefore they're afraid to step forward. So we need to look at the process.
Agreed.
But right now, any woman can say anything, and a man's career is ruined.
Yep.
Now, a lot of women can say things that are true, and their career should be ruined.
By the way,
but the problem is
by the way, hold on.
that any woman can say anything, and that's it, it's over. Is that how we're running businesses now?
There is a reporter whose name I will not mention, a very good reporter who was called in, was not told what he was accused of by an anonymous person, and he was immediately dismissed. So not only do you not get to face your accuser, in this case, you don't even get to know what the charges are against you. So when you hire a lawyer, you can't defend yourself. And again, if this is where this movement takes us, this is very dangerous, and not just dangerous for men. This is dangerous for everybody.
This is why the solution is in a more transparent workplace, in open-door policies, in ways that prevent these types of things from ever happening. It's why we have to look at how we do business. We have to make hard changes, and we have to, pull.
It's hard as a business to try to like accommodate all of these things, to try to make sure there's cameras everywhere that, you know, if something was to happen, you're gonna be able to look back at the footage and know what's going on. That's a lot of extra work that companies have to pay for and do just to make the company run normal. Like, come on.
Back a little bit. Some of the ideas I've had in the past have seemed a little bit like Elizabethan times or something, but you know what? We have to prevent the possibility. Instead of having some HR office that you run to after and you're cowering in there, you don't want to show your face and you think no one will believe you. That's a problem. I totally understand what women face here. I just also I'm stricken. I'm chilled by some of the cases I'm seeing now of people being run out of their jobs, bankrupted, and absolutely.
Many people, including myself, only became aware of the MeToo movement in 2017 when Rose McGowan, a white wealthy woman who was a famous actress, brought it up. But it was actually started all the way back in 2006 by Tarana Burke, an African-American social activist. Women of color have been speaking up about sexual abuse in low-income workspaces for ages, but they never garnered the same attention as a rich white actress.
Well, isn't this awesome? Due to the hard work and efforts of feminism in the Me Too movement has made men not only be extra careful working with women in the workplace, but it is making men not even want to work with women.
There's been some backlash about Me Too and some anxiety, as you might imagine.
Many male managers and owners are feeling a little bit more tentative when working with and managing their female workers.
Listen to this. A side result, an unintended consequence of the Me Too movement has popped up. Male executives and managers, some are now saying they are afraid to work with and mentor female colleagues in the workplace. So we're trying to find out, is it too hard to see the difference between mentoring and harassment?
Listen.
Yeah, for women it is, because we can't tell. As men, we know exactly what harassing is. But women don't seem to understand what harassing is.
I can't give any more information, but I fear I may have girl bossed a bit too close to the sun.
A large percentage of male managers were concerned about working with women one-on-one in the workplace. They were concerned about mentoring women. They were saying they were afraid to have meetings with women, to travel with women, and so on.
This is a well-known example of gender bias at work. We've heard this tale far too often. Imagine this scenario. A woman harasses a male coworker, and when he dares to speak up, he is the one who suffers the consequences. You ask, how could this happen? Indeed, in our current reality, where orientation jobs are much of the time unjustifiably slanted, the possibility that a man could be a casualty of badgering appears to confuse.
But tonight, one retired CEO is speaking out about why he thinks this might end up having the wrong effect on women in the workforce.
Steve, Tricia, well, this new wave of women standing up against sexual misconduct has led to all sorts of changes.
It's funny because the other side of this sexual misconduct is women using their sexuality to get ahead in life. They're using these things to get ahead in life. You know, sleeping with the boss. You know, letting the boss do all these things, then all of a sudden now, after time has passed, oh, you know what, he sexually assaulted me. But you were willing and you wanted it because you wanted the promotion. After you got the promotion, all of a sudden it's a problem.
But tonight, one CEO believes it may be preventing women from getting the job.
And I'm not trying to discount any of the real victims out there. There are plenty of them. There's plenty of bad men up at the top. So
they want.
From the entertainment industry to the gaming world, women everywhere are standing up against sexual misconduct in the workplace.
It's a new day. It is the era of the woman now.
The latest case has brought this movement right to the Las Vegas Strip. Casino mogul Steve Wynn stepping down as CEO yesterday after allegations he sexually assaulted employees. But is time really up?
I have a big concern. And it's
What's going to happen in hiring going forward?
Mark Yosoloff is the director of UNLV's School of Gaming and Innovation and hired hundreds of men and women as former CEO of Shufflemaster. He says this movement will make it tougher for women to get hired, especially when they're up against a qualified man.
They might elect to hire the man because they are concerned that down the road, whether they do anything wrong or not, there might be a she said, he said.
Yosoloff says current CEOs he knows have already opted not to sit in meetings alone with women in fear they would do something to spark a complaint.
It's a craziness that no executive wants to have to face.
Rather than getting backing and understanding, he's met with skepticism and hatred. All things considered, men should be extreme and impenetrable to such advances, correct? The irony is palpable. A man who is harassed by a woman is frequently viewed as weak or incapable, whereas the woman's actions are ignored or even excused. These days, men aren't the only ones who are wary of women. There's a developing pattern of ladies communicating hesitance to enlist different ladies.
Yep.
Over 10% of men and women in a 2018 survey said they were less likely to hire attractive women than they had been in the past. Please note that more recent data on women's attitudes are not yet available. It's an incredible comedic circle back, right? Some women are now facing their own retribution after years of men bearing the brunt of #MeToo's consequences. The situation has suddenly turned, and it would appear that no one is immune to the effects of their actions.
Yep.
And that wraps up today's episode of Manosphere Daily.
There's so many female bosses that have already ruined so many companies already. Bud Light, Chick-fil-A, Target, Disney. That why would any company want to hire women now? You see how women take the reins and just change the narrative of a whole company to where it's even against their own customer base. Please subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. I'll catch you guys next time.